2 today because we already tried to do the live video, and of course it got screwed up again. The problem is with my computer, when we're trying to do Facebook Live from the computer, it just doesn't want to work for some reason. So
that's the technological answer, is that it doesn't want to work. That's how good we are at this. We're
going with that.
It's glitching.
It's so much easier than to actually try and figure out why this is happening. All right, so we're going to start this over, and this is episode 3 of What Your Friends Won't Tell You. Now, Shannon Thompson-Jones, she's a licensed clinical
social worker.
Why don't you tell people who you are?
Suzanne Boyd is a news reporter anchor for 20 years.
Yes, that's what we do. But we started this show, What Your Friends Won't Tell You, because we really wanted to help people with some of the challenges in their life. Shannon does a segment on CBS 12 on the station that I work for called Ask Shannon, where she gives tools, but it's only 2 minutes long. And so she has to get all of that, and she does a great job. But we wanted to do a longer version where we give people the ability to ask questions and get comprehensive advice. I think that's what this is all about. And real advice, things that maybe you won't hear from your friends.
Yeah, your friends are not going to tell you this. Money back guarantee.
Hence the name of the show, What Your Friends Won't Tell You.
Correct. So today we're hearing from Ashley. She wrote a great question. I'm going to kind of abbreviate it, but the gist of it is, how do you create more time with your spouse when you have young children? That her and her husband, you get so disconnected, you forget why you're even together, and then they go to dinner and they fall in love all over again, and they realize why they got married, and they say, let's do this again next week, and then 6 months goes by before they do that again. Yeah. So how do you do that? And then I love, she adds some fun little questions like, are we just making an excuse about the money and babysitting being expensive? Are we avoiding intimacy? Could be. And are we just settling for routine? Yeah. And you had said, probably. Yes.
But I do want to just say that Hannah is on right now live with us, your daughter. Did you see that? Hey, Hannah. Just hands. Hannah just called, and Shannon's like, honey, I'm about to go live on Facebook. So thank you for joining us on Facebook, Hannah.
And she's walking right now, so be very careful. Walking and chewing gum, not something we do in our family very well.
So let's talk about Ashley.
Let's talk about that. Okay.
So Ashley, I think has an issue that a lot of new parents deal with, and she's not a new parent, but she has young children.
Young children, and so I do think it's a little different with newborns. So this segment really is for people with that 3 and 5 year old, 4 and 7, that kind of thing, and you get disconnected. And Suzanne and I are going to challenge you a little bit today in our gentlest, kindest way. We're going to call you lazy a little bit.
Well, I think we all get lazy because we get in a routine. And she was saying in her question, she said, do we just get into this routine? And we do, because it makes our life easier when you're in a routine. But it also can prevent a lot of the fun and the intimacy that you have in your relationship.
Right. And really, I don't know that lazy is the right word, but here's what I mean when I say lazy. We give our kids everything. Hannah, tune out for a minute. This has nothing to do with you. But children suck the life out of you, right? So 18 years of giving to our children, and we really try to put their needs first. And we should, and they need it, and it's what you do if you're a great parent. But then what happens at the end of the day, right? We come home, we have nothing left for our husbands. We have nothing left for ourselves. And that we're a little resentful about that. So I'm sure not giving anything to you because I have nothing for me. And so we get lazy in that relationship. And you think about it, I love that commercial where the guy comes in and he says, Dave, I'm not coming into work today, and Dave's a baby. That's a joke. We always show up as parents. We never say we can't show up. But then for our spouses, we say, I'm tired, I don't feel like it, I have a headache, I don't really want to connect, I'm going to go to bed, you watch TV out here, I'll watch TV in there, and we get so disconnected.
When I was married, I'm divorced now, but when I was married, it was very important for us to always have our Saturdays, and you can make it whatever day you want, but we made it a priority that once a week that it would just be he and I. And I have to tell you, there was a lot of drama with the kids and babysitters, and Elaine didn't want us to leave, and you have to deal with all that, and I get that. But I think you have to, what's the saying about whatever your priority is, that's the garden grows.
Where you water it. Yes, the grass is green where you mow it, baby.
Right.
Yes.
So, I mean, if it's a priority to you, then, that's something that you really have to to make a priority.
Right.
You know?
And it's hard and it's exhausting. And I'll tell you where I really, if I'm really honest, where I learned this is I'm remarried. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, in your first marriage, you have little ones and you take a pass. You're like, you know, love ya, you know, we'll get there. Right. But when you get remarried, mm-hmm. and now you're really trying to keep that relationship connected and strong, it just becomes kind of glaring in your face, that disconnection, and you're putting the kids first, and I kind of felt like I had somebody there looking at me like, hello, whenever you get a minute. Right. And so I realized, so we're going to give you some of the tools that I know I've used that helped my marriage stay connected and that are good. The first one being, Ashley had said, what do you do about babysitting expenses? It's really expensive now. It might be $15 an hour. You add dinner and all of that. It might be a $200 night or a $150 night. And I get people saying, I can't do it. But here's the thing. Let's think about play dates. You're there with your 3 and 5-year-old. These other families are there with their 4 and 7-year-old. You're talking, you're chatting, you become friends, you're together every Saturday. Why not say, hey, you never get to see your spouse, right? Me either. Our kids love each other. I trust you, you trust me. How about every Friday, or how about next Friday, I take my kids to your house, you have them, the kids play all night, they've gone from 8 to 11, we grab dinner and a movie and we pick them up at 11, and the following Saturday, drop yours at mine. Now we know that we're safe, we're adults, we trust each other, no expense involved. Mm-hmm. The kids have a ball, they're not screaming and crying, they're like, bye mom. Yeah. Right. So I call it babysitting swapping, and I think I want to make it viral in the world. I think it's a great idea, and we do it. We see these people all the time, right?
You know, that's part of the problem. We have such, and I am so guilty of this. We have such a problem asking for help. And if you realize the other mothers, and you know, I'm a single mom now, so I have a lot of other single mother friends, and like I reached out to one of them and they reached out to me, and it's like, oh my gosh, why did we not think of this before? Because you just think I can do this myself, but really there are so many other people in your boat. They're going through the exact same thing that you're going through. So don't be afraid to reach out to people. I think that is a good lesson. The other thing that I did was we, you know, at my kids' school, it goes up to 8th grade. And so what we would do was get like an 8th grader at the school. And 8th graders are dying to babysit. They love little kids, and the little kids love the 8th graders because, you know, they look up to them.
They want to be them.
And so in 8th grade, they're about 13, which I think is a perfect age to start babysitting. And you pay them $10 an hour. You know, you agree, or you say, I'm going to pay you $30 for the night. And if you stay a little bit longer, you know, then fine. But, you know, there are ways to get around that cost, and I think a lot of people use that as an excuse.
Well, yeah, I mean, you spend $30 on your nails and you don't even blink an eye,
right?
Exactly. And you're like, I can't afford a babysitter,
or that Starbucks coffee habit once a month,
or that pair of shoes, and you have 11 pairs of shoes. I can identify with that. I love what you just said, Suzanne, because it's really about asking for help. And when you think about it, that's why I came up with the babysitting swapping, because I know people won't ask for help. They feel like a burden. They don't want to ask, oh, well, my friend doesn't have kids, so they're not going to want to help me. Well, you know what? If they don't have kids, they probably like that in their life every now and then, to be around kids, you know, but we're so afraid to ask for help. So that is a great point.
You know what I did want to talk about on this segment too, because I think, well, you know, I don't have young kids anymore, but if I still, you know, but how do you continue to connect with your spouse? And I think, you know, I think we have an anger problem in this country, first of all. But I also think we have an anger issue, a lot of us, in our relationships, because we build it up. And resentment. Yes. And not feeling like the other person is hearing you or sees where you're coming from, or I'm working too, and I have just as much going on as you do, and so why can't you take out the trash, or why can't you help me with the kids, or whatever it is. And so I think that builds up.
Right.
So you had kind of talked about some of the ways to deal with that. Yes. And I loved your idea, because she just had a segment on CBS 12 about this, and I really loved what you said, because it makes so much sense.
Right. So what you're talking about is the power struggle, that I'm exhausted, I've done everything for the kids today, you roll in, you just want to sit on the couch, whatever. We're getting into this resentment, we're getting into the power struggle. Well, I did this. Well, I worked until 9 o'clock and I haven't even eaten today, and we get into this. And so one of the things that I love, that I feel like in my marriage that we've done, and it's from lots of coaching and information and the Imago theory and books, is that I worry about him and he worries about me, and everybody gets taken care of. And so this concept that when you're starting to feel resentful, to tune into your spouse and start thinking about, what are they going, okay, he worked till 9, he didn't get lunch, he feels like a bad father because he hasn't seen the kids all day. He already knows I'm resentful, so he's a little afraid to come home, and he's tired and he's angry because we haven't been intimate in weeks. And stepping into that other person's skin and then saying to yourself, how can I make it better for them? So on their way home, you call them, and instead of saying, are you coming? It's 9 o'clock. Hey, have you eaten? Because there's some leftovers. Are you almost near home? Let me go ahead and get those hot and ready for you. Yeah. Giving to them what you would want them to give to you. And after a little bit of time, maybe say you do that for a month where you're really focused on taking care of them, then you can bring up, you know what? I think we need to focus on taking better care of each other. On Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm going to just really focus on your needs. I know I have the kids and all that, but maybe squaring away dinner, maybe doing a load of laundry for you, trying to tune into what you need. And I wonder if on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, it could be all about me those days, and you can be focused on me. And that comes from the Imago weekend, and it's to practice and train for getting out of the what about me. Yeah. Well, it's not fair. If you take 3 days, you don't get to think about yourself for 3 days. It pulls you out of the struggle.
But you have to have that conversation, and I think that's the problem with a lot of people is that we just want the other person to give, but you really need to sit down and have a conversation with that person about how you're feeling and how you want, what you want this to look like, And so I think with, I hate to say this, but with men, you have to be very specific.
We're not male bashing. It's not that you guys aren't smart, but.
No, but they can't read our minds. And I think a lot of women, I am very guilty of this. Think, well, don't they just know that's how I'm feeling about it, And you get so frustrated, but they really don't know.
No, they're not actually psychic.
No.
It's psychic marriage.
You really have to, I think women are maybe a little more intuitive, so maybe our girlfriends see it, but I don't know if our husbands or our spouses always see it.
Right. No, so it's about asking for your needs, and it's about the way you communicate, which I think you're highlighting, which is I feel statements, and everybody makes fun of it, but it's so true. If you say to somebody, I can't believe you did not take out the garbage again. It's been 4 nights. It stinks to the high heavens. I have to do everything.
Or you just grab the garbage and take it out the door and make sure you slam the door behind you. Because that really works.
Yes.
Then they really know you're pissed off.
He gets the message then. He doesn't even have to be psychic then.
I might have done that a couple of times.
So Suzanne's a wee bit passive aggressive. So yes, to say, I really feel frustrated when you don't get to take the garbage out because then it stinks and it's 4 days and it's hard enough playing with the kids outside without that smell. And so I feel statements really help them to not be so defensive and reactive.
Hold on, let me just turn that phone off. Who's calling?
Be right back.
Phone? Really?
Hold that line. When does a house phone ring? What is this? 1972?
What was that? I have a house phone. I know. Who has a house phone?
Don't go looking up her number.
The only reason I have it is because of 911. I'm always, I fear that something's going to happen at the house and then your cell phone won't work.
Yes.
And
it'll be a conspiracy.
Right.
They'll cut your cell phone line.
Exactly. I've seen the movies, okay? All right, we digress. So does anyone have any questions? All of our 2 live viewers right now, do you have any questions?
Hi, Sam. Hi, Glenn.
Hi, Glenn. I am mad as hell and not going to take it anymore. That's so true. You just get in this. I think we have to take ourselves out because it's not in a relationship like that, it's not what did he do for me and what did I do for him? And I think it's really about what's the end game. The end game is to feel connected to that person and continue to want to be married to that person and want to be with that person. And sometimes you have to give a little more than you get. But I think that all balances itself out throughout the relationship.
I love the concept when people say relationships are 50-50. No, they're not. They're 100%. And at any given point, you're giving 70, they're giving 30, they're giving 80, you're giving 20. That's really what a relationship is. When you're not feeling well, I know I went through a long period of time where I wasn't feeling well. My husband did 90%. I did 10%. But you know what? If we stay married, I'm sure there's going to come that time for him. And so it's give and take. So just to kind of, well, I just lost my train of thought. I was going to refresh on something that we said a minute ago. Oh, you were talking about date night.
Right.
That is so important. So one of the ways, Ashley, that you said yourself, it feels so great when we do date night to do it once a week. Now, here's the deal. You know, if you set date night for every Wednesday or every Friday or every Saturday, the kids are going to be sick, what? Twice a month, right? You're going to knock out 2 right off the bat. But if you shoot, it's like shoot for the stars and you'll clear the trees. If you set that date night every Friday, then you might get to 2 a month, which is fantastic, right? To be able to connect every 14 days. Because I'm going to be honest, when you don't do date night, you don't connect.
Right.
You just don't, right? No. You have to have that alone time. My other secret weapon is, again, people make it about money, but you don't have to go on vacation. Nobody gets a vacation with a 3 and a 5-year-old, but there is a hotel 10 minutes from your house or 20 minutes on the beach or somewhere fun. You get one night, you take one night, you leave at noon on Saturday and you come back at 4 on Sunday. And if you can get one night in a hotel, laying by the pool, having a drink, having dinner, having a little intimacy, you're completely reconnected by the time you go home on Sunday.
And there's a great app for that. It's called Hotels Tonight. And what they do is they give you the hotel for all the hotels in your area. You put in whatever city you're in, all the hotels for your area, and they're totally reduced because they're trying to get rid of those rooms for that one night.
Wow.
So you can go and get really nice luxury hotels for $99 or whatever. I mean, some as low as like $79 a night. And I mean, come on. If you get the day at the pool, you get, to hang out with your spouse, you get a night alone. And it really is a great way to get away, but you're not going that far. No. So if your kids need you, if something happens, at least you're right there.
Yeah, it's just about the connection. And even on that note, I'm going to say this, but I have to be honest. Even as I say it, I don't believe it's all that possible.
I'm about to say something I don't believe is
something
true.
I have no hope in. But boundaries. I learned this again by being in a second marriage where we give too much to our children.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, millennials, again, tune out on this, but we give too much. We just give and give and give and give, and we do. We're up until 11 trying to put them to bed or whatever. So to have those rituals that honor the marriage, that you start shooting for that 8 o'clock bedtime. I know if your kids are hyperactive and sometimes, or they're sick, it might be 10. But if you're shooting for 7 or 8, if you're shooting for that bedtime, under the premise that I'm going to get them in bed, I'm going to start at 7:30, they're in bed by 8:30, I've got an hour left to give, and I sit on the couch with my spouse and we talk.
Yeah. And the other thing that a lot of parents do, and I am so guilty of this, I got into this routine with my children, is letting them sleep in my bed. And I have to tell you, it's very, once you start that, you can't get them out. I will tell you that. But in order to really, you have to create boundaries. And so what I started doing with my kids, because you going through the divorce, then you feel guilty because you're like, they've already been through so much. I don't want to do that to my kids and kick them out of my bed.
Guilt parenting.
Yes.
There's a name for this. Guilt parenting.
But what I started to do was say, okay, kids, listen. On Friday nights, you can sleep in my bed. That's your one night a week. But every other night, you have to be in your bed. And it was challenging, at first. But I would stay in there with them until they would go to sleep. And then I said, okay, now you can go to bed on your own, And giving rewards, too. Rewards are really big. If you stay in your bed for 5 nights in a row, we'll go to Walmart, or you can order something off Amazon, or whatever it is. But at least you have they're getting a reward for doing that kind of thing.
I love that. That is such a perfect example of what I'm trying to say. We give up even our sleep,
even our bed. Yeah,
even our
you're
bed.
not sleeping well with 2 kids and a dog in the bed.
And a foot right here. There's a foot right here and an arm here.
Oh my gosh,
it's bad.
I had that last night because Friday night is their night to sleep in the bed. They still sleep in the bed with me.
Yeah, and they look forward to it, and it's a nice treat. But how nice that you set that boundary so that you can sleep the other 6 nights, right? And they get to kind of refill. So that's a great tool for people, is Stop giving 192%. Start setting those boundaries and picking that special day. And that's, again, we could get off on a whole nother tangent about millennials and being so instant gratification focused. So you have to wait 5 days until it's your night, 7 days until it's your next time to sleep with mom. It gives you something to look forward to. And that delayed gratification is great parenting.
I have to tell you that it's not just millennials who want instant gratification.
Yes.
Like, I might be guilty of that too.
Well, you know why I say that? Because, when we talk about generations, I was raised in a home that didn't have a lot in regards to money and things like that. So my mom would make me, I'd say, oh, I want Guess jeans. And she'd say, oh, I want you to have Guess jeans. We'll get them for Easter. And it would be October.
Yeah.
And so that was I attribute that to be one of the greatest things about my level of appreciation in life. I'm so grateful and appreciative. And I don't always see that in millennials.
Yeah.
So that delayed gratification. But yeah, I think that we're all trained now that we want a new iPhone and we want a new download and we want everything right now because that's how it's working. But
yeah, and talking about that, what I've done with my kids is, they don't just get things, I think a lot of kids, and I was probably the same way growing up, but my parents didn't have a lot of money either. So we didn't just go buy things, but we go to the grocery store and they want something for themselves I'm like, you're getting food. How about that? I only have 3 requirements as a parent: to clothe you, to feed you, and to put shelter over your head,
I love that. Yeah.
And so what I do is tell them, you can use your own money, and they do. If you want something other than, for your birthday or for Christmas or for a special holiday, then, you spend your own money, and they know that. I do not veer from that.
Right.
So that's one of my boundaries is you have to spend your own money if you want something special for yourself.
Right.
Outside of a birthday or a special holiday.
Right, which is a great tool. And we're on a whole nother segment now because we both have enough ADD. So bringing it back to what you asked, Ashley. So connection with spouse. Babysitting, swapping is one thing. Date night every week. Trying to give less to the children, save something for your spouse, getting together, setting a time frame, whether it's at the end of the night or the morning, maybe getting up a little early. That I can never do that, but trying to find that window of time that you're sitting for 20 minutes or 30 minutes and connecting
together
and sharing. A lot of people do that. They get the kids to bed, maybe sit on the back porch for just 20 minutes, right? Put the phone down, put the TV down, and just sit and do 20 minutes together. Those rituals are really, really important.
And boundaries. Did you
setting
say boundaries?
Firm boundaries with the kids so that you're not, not letting them come into your bed. You bring up another kind of tool, Suzanne, would be looking at the things that are blocking you from connecting. So if the kid is literally blocking you because he's sleeping between you, that is something to really work on. And I know I remember it well, getting up every hour. My kids didn't sleep until they got, Hannah's in college now. She's taking a nap pretty soon because she's a sleeper now. But we lost that.
She's a sleeper.
Yeah, no, we didn't do any of that growing up. But I'm glad you're going to sleep now. But so sleeping, for example.
Oh my gosh, you're totally shaming your daughter on Facebook Live right now. I love it.
I love you. But yeah, getting up. I know it's a big challenge to get up and take them back to bed and lay down with them. And you're exhausted, but it's worth it. It's worth it so that you can keep that connection with that person in bed next to you so there's not a child in between you. So those are sacred moments that you don't think about. But that can be sometimes the only place you connect. Yeah. Should we talk about intimacy?
Yes. Of course we should talk about intimacy.
So intimacy, I do think sex is really important as a connector, and I'm not putting any pressure because at the end of the day, when you have small children, those statistical numbers are really low. But I will tell you, one of my favorite friends, and I'm not going to out her live, but one of my favorite friends, she reminded me about scheduling. You have to schedule sex when you have small children. You have to schedule that, Sunday when they're at whatever, the birthday party or whatever, making those scheduled times. And I think having it at the same time every week, although not sexy, is also kind of important because we're good at routine.
Yeah.
We're good at routine.
And I think that date night that you do once a week, it really makes it easier and you want to have sex with that person.
Right.
When, when you're going out together and you feel connected. It makes it better than when you're coming home after a day of work and you're exhausted and you've just had the kids all day or whatever it is. You know, it makes it easier. So when you create that time with your spouse or your loved one, I think it really it makes that easier. You want to be intimate with them.
That sounds like a lot of pressure to me, though. I got to be honest. A date night and sex.
Really?
I think we should separate.
Oh my God! If you're not having sex on date night, when are you having it? I mean, come on.
I'm picturing you come home, the kids are still awake, and you have to get them to bed.
Well, then
No,
park in the car or something. I don't know.
I think she's more adventurous than I am. So date night, get dinner, do it in the back of the car, and then get home to the kids. That's what we got for you.
Oh gosh.
Is there anything else we can recommend?
All right, no, let's talk more about intimacy.
There is a book I want to recommend. I know that you have no time to read, but what I love is this concept of downloading things now and on Audiobox, I think it is.
I still like a good old-fashioned book.
I know, I like to touch it too, but
Yeah.
when you have kids, like if you're driving for work, maybe you drop the kids off at daycare or school, and then you're driving 30 minutes, you can listen in the car. It's called Making Real Love Happen, and it's from somebody who does the Imago stuff, and which is the theory that I work under. That's so wonderful. But it's,
which I think you need to explain to people what the Imago theory is, because I really love this concept, and it makes so much sense. It really makes so much sense about who you're attracted to, who is best for you.
Yeah. So and I guess this is good basic information to know if you're working on being in the power struggle. So Harville Hendrix and his wife, Helen LaKelly Hunt, I believe it is, came up with this theory maybe 30 years ago, and their story is really beautiful. They both found themselves in a divorce with kids, and they were never going to be divorced. They did everything right, and so they found themselves in a divorce and then a remarriage, and they were, having struggles, and they were trying to figure out, well, how did this happen to us? How did we end up divorced?
Right.
We never planned on this. And so they started doing the research and studying, and what they came up with, I think, is brilliant, which is that it's no coincidence who we're attracted to. And this is all in the book, Getting the Love You Want, a guide for couples. But basically, it's no coincidence who we're attracted to. When we have unresolved wounding from childhood, and for those of you right now that are going, oh, this is
my
crap,
child is perfect.
I'm not wounded. I just want to say one thing to you. Eighth grade, did that not wound you? Because if you didn't get wounded in 8th grade, congratulations.
And just because you think you had an idyllic childhood, there was always something going on that
was difficult.
Right.
And so really the theory's not picking on parents. It's picking on the world. And that's why I tease about 8th grade. I mean, I remember being left out of social groups, or the boy that I had a crush on kissed the girl that was my best friend the whole ride home on the bus from whatever. Don't make me cry, Suzanne.
That's wounding.
That was wounding. He picked her, and she was my bestie. So stuff like that happens. We get wounded, and then what we decide is that we're not good enough, less than, right? So we have these wounds: rejection, abandonment, not good enough, invisible, smothered. Some of us, I have a boy, I mean, God, you just want to hug him and hold him all the time, and the boy's like, get off of me, right?
Yeah.
So smothering. So there's all these wounds that occur. They occur in developmental stages, and when you go into the world, you will be attracted to somebody who has the similar traits of your caregivers and the environments that you grew up in, who has the potential to wound you in the exact same way as you were wounded in your childhood. So for example, if you have a tendency to be rejected.
That's why they say, you marry your father or you marry your mother, because maybe your mother or your father was,
busy.
Wasn't there all the time.
Yeah.
And so what you're attracted to is probably that guy that isn't there all the time.
Right.
So you are attracted to what you know.
Well, you're attracted to what you know, but what I love about it so brilliant is you're attracted because you're trying to complete something. You want to heal. Our subconscious brain wants to feel better. We want to get what we didn't get when we needed to get it. So you will choose somebody and go, hey, this looks familiar. This person can totally heal me because they're just like what I came from. Problem is, they're just like what you came from. And so, and if they can be a great person, but if they're unconscious, they will wound you again and again, and you will wound them. Here's the catch. The Imago theory helps the marriage be conscious Recognize I'm wounding you because I'm controlling to you like your mother was. You're wounding me because you're running from me when I control you and you're making me feel abandoned. We talk about it, we figure it out, and we stop wounding each other. We heal each other.
Yeah. It's like, it really is putting yourself in the other person's shoes, which at the end of the day, because you're not realizing that by not answering the text immediately,
right,
that it's going back to an abandonment or an issue they had as a kid. It's really not they're trying to control you and say, why aren't you answering my text right away?
Right.
It's really about them being hurt by that.
Right.
And when you can recognize that and say, listen, I recognize that, but I'm also very busy during the day and I may not be able to answer your text right away, but know that I still love you and still want to be there for you.
Well, that's perfect description. And then what Imago would do one step more with that is say, okay, but you're very busy, but would you be willing to check in at 10 and 2? For 2 minutes.
Right.
Hey, I just got off the news, just making sure you're good. Oh, I'm great, honey. You did a great job. Thanks so much.
That feels very controlling. See?
Simple,
that's the problem.
Simple, not easy. Simple, not easy.
I have commitment issues.
Yes. But you know what? You know why she would do it? She would do it when she had genuine empathy and compassion and the person sitting across from her was crying, because the last thing they remember as a child is that when they didn't get that call back from their father, he was killed in a car accident.
Yeah.
Then would you do it?
Right. Yeah.
Done.
See?
Yes. So empathy and compassion for where the other person's coming from. Putting yourself in their shoes.
And that's just not for someone you're in a relationship with, but really for everyone that you come into contact with. Because I've always said, like, one of my things, and I have this as my screensaver on my computer, is you never know the battles that someone is facing. Yeah. Or it says something like that.
So it says always be kind.
Always be kind, because you never know what's going on in someone else's life. And someone's always fighting a battle. Mm-hmm. I mean, everyone thinks, like we talked about this, everyone thinks you're a therapist. You've got it all figured out. You don't fight anything because you know how to deal with it immediately, but you deal with things that you have to, work through every single day. And I'm the same way. We have to work through these things. But
that's my favorite expression, and I've really worked on, because what we tend to do, which you're highlighting, is that we tend to get focused on ourselves when we feel in crisis. We tend to be like, that's not fair, and I'm doing this. And so stepping into the other person's shoes, when I was younger, I was so codependent. We'll do that segment in a minute.
That's our next segment.
Hold tight. I was so codependent that everything was about me because I felt responsible for everything.
For everyone.
Down to the Publix clerk, I'm not kidding with you, that if they were rude, I would literally walk out muttering like, I don't know what I did. Why is she mad at me? I didn't say anything wrong. I was so responsible for the world. Right. So one of the techniques that I started using is that when I started to feel that sad feeling of why are they being so cold or mean, I would say to literally the Publix clerk, are you having a bad day? And boy, what you would hear. She would say, oh my goodness, both my children were sick last night. They were up vomiting all night. I haven't slept in 3 days. Right. I have to be here because I don't have any money and I need to pay rent on Friday. And then it's just like, oh my goodness. A, it's not about me.
Right.
And B, to have compassion and empathy. Right. And I built so many connections with people that way. But I had to pause and say, this is not personal.
Right. It never is. It's never about you. Mm-mm. When someone else is angry or lashing out or unkind or rude, it's never about you.
And especially with your spouse, they're getting triggered, they're dealing with their own battles, they're feeling guilty and shameful and all kinds of stuff. So don't take it personally. Do be curious and interested in getting to know what's going on for them. Try to have empathy and compassion. I feel statements. If you're going to communicate something, instead of being shaming or critical, I feel statements, right?
Yeah, I think that's all great advice, and I think we've had a good Facebook Live today. Yes, all right, thank you all for watching. Yeah, for tuning in, and don't forget, we want to hear your questions. We want to know what you're dealing with in your life. If Shannon can give you any great tools, please leave us comments. Like our page, like our videos, and please share if you have a moment. If you know someone who's struggling with some of the issues we talked about today, please share our video.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you. We're gonna hit finish. Here we go. Bye, Jasmine.